It's often being debated. Can a nation's geography set its destiny? Located at the southernmost tip of mainland Asia is this special economic zone called Iskandar, Malaysia. 3 times the size of Singapore, its future is inextricably linked to its neighbor. But what would it take for this visionary economic region to become a livable metropolis?
Special economic zone that was initiated by the federal government of Malaysia and closely supported by the Johor state government. And the creation of IRDA, the Iskandar Regional Development Authority, to ensure that investors who come are properly managed. And then, of course, IRDA's tagline, a strong, sustainable metropolis of international standing.
Iskandar Investment sees itself as a strategic developer, focused very much on developing catalytic projects that once up and running would generate huge multiplier effects.
We decided to choose on Asia as our first choice because we believe this will be the economic powerhouse of the 21st century. We found ourselves with a partner, essentially the Malaysian government, who were interested in bringing in a catalytic project to the region. They were willing to give us the land area that we wanted, which is 90 acres. Well, the proximity of Singapore was very important when we chose the site. Unsurprisingly, our market feasibility study told us that there'd be no day market in this immediate vicinity, and we'd have to go to Singapore for that. So we've always felt that Singapore was going to be an important market for us. But interestingly, there's been significant relocation from Singapore to Iskandar. And there are more and more parents buying into this region and buying up properties. I just wish I'd organised a deal with a property developer.
Despite efforts at improving connectivity and accessibility between Singapore and Malaysia, some investors and even home buyers continue to remain on the outside looking in. But opposite to the very cautious and risk-averse are the brave hearts.
It was a very tough decision indeed. Basically, when I told my family I've made a decision to move to Malaysia, and they were like absolutely shocked.
Even her Malaysian friend, who had been living in Singapore for a decade, advised against the move, adding it's dangerous.
So I sat down with my husband and said, what do you think? I mean, we lived in a HDB for 5 years. I think we can live anywhere else. It has to be a decision coming from both of us. And yeah, we made a decision. And I think it's the best decision we have made so far. Moving into a 7-bedroom house with swimming pool, with a garden is a dream come true from ourselves, for my kids. Seeing them having a pet, running around the garden, the kids swimming, just can't describe.
We both actually working in Singapore, so we would go in every day, and it's about 45 minutes into the centre of Singapore, so not a big issue. And we managed with that fine for the first couple of years. Since then, of course, we both set up our own businesses, and now we don't necessarily need to go into Singapore every day, but we're still going in quite regularly, maybe 2 or 3 days a week.
Would it be possible that one day Singaporeans send their children to school in Johor, an international school, running on an American or British curriculum? Possible. So I think that it won't be too long before you would actually have Singaporeans living in Johor, working in Singapore.
Living in one country and working in another is not uncommon. It happens all across the European Union, and with Iskandar, it's no different. While accommodation for families and other amenities are driving the construction sector, providing jobs and boosting real estate and property development, one can't neglect the local Johorians who constitute a vital component of the Iskandar ecosystem.
When we look into the next stage of growth, the value creation, we are quite mindful in terms of what is in it for the people. And we found this model, which in fact is called AIR, for short, AIR. A for authenticity, I for inclusiveness, and R for resilience. So this part on the people is actually on the inclusiveness. And we want to make sure that when we grow, there is actually what we call as growth with equity. And at the same time, we also have, in fact, assisted the state government in bringing a much better standard of living to the villages. Because in one of our projects, we have successfully relocated a small group of villages to one of the best. I say that it can actually be the best model of a village, of a modern village. And that is the benefit that the locals have actually enjoyed.
The villagers of Kampung Tandas Baru, before they were relocated, were mostly living in wooden houses like these at the water edge of the Sungai Pandas. After months of careful negotiations, they agreed to move into these modern facilities.
Saya balik lagi dari laut, saya jual di jeti ujung tempat nelayan tu. Tapi belum ikan tu naik, dah ada orang yang lupa bagi, kita bagi. Jadi belen-belen tu kita bawa balik. Kalau sampai di rumah, kalau ada lebih kita bawa lauk sikit, separuh kita jual dengan korbi.
Bagi kerajaan negeri Johor, ini merupakan satu projek contoh model bagi negeri Johor menempatkan penduduk di situ perkampungan yang tersusun. Yang pertama di negeri Johor yang berlaku di Kampung Pelas Laut.
Coming up, a Dutch football legend has launched a special training facility in Johor Bahru. Iskandar, Malaysia, a visionary economic region located at the southernmost tip of mainland Asia. The single largest development project ever to be undertaken in the region, it is poised to become a regional economic powerhouse by 2025. An initiative of the Malaysian federal government along with the Johor state government, Iskandar Malaysia's vision is to be a strong and sustainable metropolis of international standing. Located within Nusa Jaya, one of 5 flagship zones is Silk. The Southern Industrial and Logistics Clusters is envisioned to be a world-class managed clean and green industrial park, designed and planned to meet the current demand for environmentally sustainable development. And for entrepreneurs like the Wards who've relocated from Singapore, Iskandar offers a way forward.
Certainly from my area of expertise in biotech, there's a growing industry in Malaysia, and they're setting up now in this part of the Iskandar, the BioExcel, for instance, which is a big science park, and bringing in some major multinational companies. I have some small involvement there. Hopefully that will be a growing involvement over the next number of years.
To support these industries, to provide the much-needed human capital, Iskandar adopted the strategy of having a cluster of campuses across various disciplines coming together into a sort of a little city.
Iskandar, I think it's a really good initiative because it's something that we need here in JB. Like when you're looking for jobs and all that, especially for people like me, like fresh graduates and all that, there's not really a market here, and most of us end up studying at Singapore or going over to KL to study. So what Iskandar is doing will really help us in the future.
the main important thing was bringing in the right brands of the universities, and we brought in Newcastles and the Southamptons and Readings. We're looking at a lot of other schools as well. So it's very important that we had the brand. Together with the brand, we have the shared facilities as well. So EduCity is an integrated campus for students, which is why we have the stadium, we have the student accommodation, we have in plans doing things more so that the students actually feel at home here in EduCity.
As part of its internationalization strategy, Newcastle University made a deliberate decision to situate itself in Nusajaya Iskandar, just 8 kilometers from the second crossing bridge to Singapore. A state-of-the-art campus with cutting-edge patient simulation products and staff of international repute, that's a given. But what makes this campus unique is the active recruitment of students from rural areas. And at this horseshoe-shaped theatre, arrangements are made for local Johorians to come in, role-playing as medical patients to enhance the learning environment.
The Klang Valley in Kuala Lumpur, like Singapore, are a magnet. So people want to go and work there. That therefore can lead to an imbalanced workforce where you don't find so many doctors in the rural areas. East Malaysia is a particular example. To put it in a nutshell, if you recruit students from KL, they come down to Johor for their medical education and then they get sent to East Malaysia, they're not particularly happy. They want to go back home, and I think that's quite natural. So our strategy is to recruit students from the rural areas, and we've been quite successful in doing that. We're also delivering the Newcastle UK medical curriculum here. So we have about 30% of our staff who are seconded from the medical school in the UK at any one time. But for the rest, we recruit other staff internationally. And they go through about 12 months induction and training before they are actually involved in the teaching of the students.
The vastness of EduCity and the rest of Iskandar does have one drawback. How does one get around with ease? While professionals and the well-to-do may have their own vehicles, low-income families and of course students are largely dependent on public transport. A transport master plan has been put up, but getting that integrated transportation network off the drawing board and turning it into reality will be critical if Iskandar is to become a metropolis of an international standard.
There's a lot of room for improvements. We could do things like, having bicycles. We could have more shuttles coming in. We want it to be something where it's easy for students to move around within Johor, or even if they want to go to Singapore.
In addition to the wide repertoire of conventional academic courses being offered, a considered effort was made to include sports into the mix. Dutch football legend Johan Cruyff chose Iskandar to be the first home in Asia for professional courses in sports management. But the children are never far, and Malaysia is now the second Asian country after Japan to have a Cruyff court.
Sebenarnya Craft Foundation ni adalah salah satu daripada usaha inisiatif daripada pihak Iskandar Investment Malaysia untuk mengadakan satu program dengan mengambil Sekolah Muhammad K. Johari sebagai tempat untuk Craft Foundation yang melibatkan komuniti di sekitar kawasan sekolah dan juga sekolah-sekolah yang berhampiran.
Coming up, a dream come true for one Malaysian who has one of the coolest jobs on the planet. The story of Iskandar Malaysia began with a vision, but it's now no longer a dream. And the same can be said for professional Lego model builder Nazrin, who some say has the coolest job in the growing metropolis of Iskandar.
Ever since I was a kid, I was a fan of Lego. used to spend most of my free time playing with Lego, building things such as cars, houses, spaceship, robots. So when I heard that they were going to open a Lego land here, I was excited. In fact, I told my parents that it would be cool if I could get a job in Lego land. So when I heard that there was an opening for Lego model builder here in Legoland, I just had to apply. So here I am right now.
This is the first Legoland park that we've built in Asia. We have plans for more, but I think this will always be the first one and probably one of the best. I think if you talk to anybody worldwide on attractions, they probably think about Orlando in America as the home of every single attraction that you've got, and the potential both in Iskandar and Singapore to be the Orlando of Southeast Asia is absolutely apparent, and that's why we're here, because we want to be part of that story. The absolute heart of any Legoland is Miniland, and you can see some of the fantastic models that we've got here with the Minilands. It's very unique because we have one of our worldwide model shops actually based in Iskandar. So we only have 5 of those in the whole world. So some of the fantastic things you see here, absolutely unique, are actually built locally.
One main factor that is good for Iskandar is it has provided a lot of new job opportunities, especially for fresh graduates such as myself. I mean, these days, it's hard enough for fresh graduates to get a job, much less the job that they dream of. So for me personally, to get this job, because Iskandar has decided to open a Legoland here, I'm so fully grateful for it.
Despite jobs being made available, challenges remain. For one, finding an affordable place to stay.
We have about 80% of them are Johorians, and then we also have people who are not staying very close to the park, but we also have from the other park of Johor as well, to make it easier, to make it very comfortable for them to come and go back after work, as well as to have a comfortable space of living. We are providing transportation with a very minimal pay deduction, transportation plus accommodation as well. We are providing accommodation. We have taken a few units from the Iskandar development, and we provide this accommodation to our staff.
At this housing project, couples or families who earn below a certain income bracket level can apply to rent units. The only requirement, they must be working within the Iskandar area. For the upper bracket, the new Medini township, an integrated mixed development project, beckons. Its central draw, the new business district that's expected to turn Medini into an international destination.
All the basic infrastructure is now in place within Medini. But now we are taking the company to the next level, which Medini itself will also be developing some projects and become a property developer in its own right. And our vision is to kickstart the development of the business district within Medini.
This is an initiative of Khazanah Nasional. They wanted to build the film industry in Malaysia. Very smartly, early in the piece, they went out and did a deal with Pinewood to license their name and to involve Pinewood in the management of the facility. So it gave us straight away an international recognition for the studios. The crown and our jewel really is our big Horizon tank. That will be the only one in Asia Pacific, and that's to film those projects are set at sea. Life of Pi is a prime example. With this tank, we could have filmed that production here in Iskandar.
To keep overheads down, this entire facility will have about 50 staff, mostly deployed in the television and post-production areas. That's because film companies will fly in their own teams, and training is already underway to prepare locals to feed into the creative industry.
And it was a very smart course because we took people who had already graduated in the basic skills there. We took carpenters, trained in a set construction people. We took somebody who'd been training to do hair for a salon and cross-skilled them into the film industry. So it was a very easy start for us to really start to build a strong talent force here. And one of the keys to it was also that we trained local people that were training in construction and so on, so that they would then know about the film industry so they can keep this going.
The creative industry, the education cluster, business community, all of them flying into Iskandar for work means good business all in all for apartment rentals, hotel rooms, and a range of other services. It augurs well for the various stakeholders.
We've seen developments within the Iskandar project with regards to EduCity, and we've seen a lot of overseas organisations come to JB, and obviously they set up and they use our facilities and our hotels to develop their organisations. So it's had a fantastic impact. Our business year on year has grown, and with the sustainability of the plan, it's continued to grow moving forward.
I think there's a palpable sense of excitement that we are on the springboard of rapid growth and development. But then the city isn't really just about concrete buildings and highways and bridges and things like that. And so we see it as very important that the art take root in this community. It is very important that we continue to nurture and to give a bit of soul to the city.
The good thing about Iskandar is like, because they are investing in all these facilities, and infrastructure, so in the future there'll be more of these venues, more of these facilities, which will enable Johor Bahru to, move even further and have more performances, have greater activities, and allow more opportunities for youth to really be a part of the city.
The revitalization of Johor Bahru City Centre is a highly anticipated project, but that's another story for another time. In the final analysis, it doesn't matter what this writer has to say about the future of Iskandar. Iskandar's future is inextricably linked to the rest of the world, and especially Singapore. And the rest of the world will decide if the pull factors are strong enough to draw them in, to invest, live, and grow here. But one thing is certain, much will depend on one important group, Malaysians themselves. Do they believe in the Iskandar story? Believe it enough to become the catalyst for change?